Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of For the Classical Guitarist. In this video, I'm sure you can tell that I'm somewhere different than I normally am with a bunch of guitarists behind me. I am over at Joe Burris's showroom, Fine Musical Instruments, located in Springfield, Massachusetts, and in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about a few different Cordoba guitars. So, let's get started. So when looking to buy what might be your first classical guitar, there's tons of options, and the name Cordoba is probably one of the first ones that comes up. But once you start looking into them, you realize that there's a few options available. There's a C1, there's a C5, there's a C7, and so on. And they vary in price point, and you might be wondering, how much should I spend on my first guitar? Or how much should I spend if I'm looking to upgrade from one guitar to the next? So I'm going to be taking a look at the C1, the C5, and the C7, talking about some of my own personal opinions, giving you guys some rough price points of how much each one will be, and also some specs on what you might be expecting from each of these guitars. Okay, so right here I have now a Cordoba C1 guitar. This guitar has mahogany back and sides, has a cedar top, and it comes at the price point around $175. So let's go ahead and take a look at how it sounds, and I'll give you some of my overall thoughts. So to start off, I want to just see overall how the volume is. I'm just going to check it out with just some basic chords. So the guitar is definitely holding its tuning. You can hear each note of the chord pretty clear, and I think it sounds pretty good. Now let's go ahead and move on to some pieces to see how the notes sound when you play them. Okay, so my thoughts on that is, yes, the guitar stays in tune. I'm not really getting a whole lot of volume, and that is definitely an important part of any guitar. There's going to be the volume, the overall sustain, just how it feels when you play it. But my first big thought on the guitar is just the overall sound that I was getting from the basses. I didn't really get that warm, full sound that you get from many guitars. Yes, it's staying in tune, and yes, I can hear the notes pretty clearly, but there isn't really a whole lot going on besides just that. Now, another thing I want to check out when looking at guitars, other than the bass sound, is going to be how it sounds in the upper register. This is going to cover things such as the sustain, the overall volume, and the overall balance. Okay, so right there, that definitely is a dead giveaway of a lower price student instrument. Not that it's a bad thing, and not that any student will be playing pieces like that up there, but if you've been playing a little while, this instrument I don't think would get you by that well in terms of the overall sustain that you're getting. The notes seem to be cutting out pretty quickly, and the trebles seem kind of tinny in my own opinion. So my overall thoughts for the Cordoba C1 is, yes, it is a nice guitar for the price point. It would get somebody by, definitely for the first year or so of study. But beyond that, when they're playing pieces that have multiple voices, they're playing maybe even up in the upper register, even around the 7th fret or so, I would say you want to upgrade to the next level instrument, because these are the things that you're going to want to have as you start to develop your playing. Coming up next is the Cordoba C5. Now, personally, this is probably the guitar I recommend to any student who's just getting started into playing classical guitar and they're willing to invest some money into it. This guitar, brand new, comes in at the price around $350 or so, and honestly, I think it's probably one of the best guitars you can get for the money. Let's check out some open chords, then I'll play some pieces on it. Okay, so right away, compared to the C1, you definitely notice there's a much fuller and a much warmer sound. And those are some things you definitely want to have in the guitar, and it's going to play a big importance into the tone, which we'll see in a second. Now, when talking about this guitar a little bit, it does have the same cedar top as the C1 had, as well as having the mahogany back and sides, but there definitely is a lot more work going into the craftsmanship of this guitar, making sure that it has a finer cut of cedar on the top, as well as having maybe a better balance of the bracing inside. And that's, to me, is what's giving it the sound it has. So let's go ahead and check out the same opening to a Sirius now on the C5. So right away, definitely a big difference. I mean, the basses are so much clearer, they're so much fuller, and I can actually hear what I'm doing, and I actually have more control of what I want to do. So let's hear how the bass line sounds for a second on its own so you can maybe hear a little bit closer what I mean. So like I mentioned before, when you're looking at a guitar, especially in this price point, having a clear treble sound, especially in the up position, is going to be pretty important. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same opening of La Cathédrale now on the C5. Okay, and again, obviously, yeah, definitely a big difference between the C5 and the C1. The treble notes are so much clearer, and they're sustaining much better. As you might remember with the C1, the treble sound kind of died right away. In this one, the sound is sustaining a bit more, and it has some warm color to it. So in my opinion, for any student, this is going to be a very important thing. You're going to want to have that clear sound, because as a student, if you're doing all these good things in your technique and the guitar still isn't doing the things, it can definitely be pretty frustrating. So if you've been playing guitar for a little while and you're looking to upgrade, or maybe you want to get started in guitar and you're pretty serious about getting going and you want to have a nice sound and be able to really have a guitar that's going to last you a bit longer than a C1, I would definitely go with the C5. Finally, we have the Cordoba C7. Now this one I don't have a whole lot of experience for. Most of the time when people are looking, they want to stop at the price point of the C5, which is totally fine, but if you're really serious, or if you've been playing guitar for 2 years or more, I would highly recommend the Cordoba C7. This one starts off at the price point of about $550, and honestly, I can see why. It has the same exact sounds that you expect from the C5, except I would just say more of it. There's definitely much more attention going into the work of the craftsmanship of the guitar itself. If you take a look, you can actually see how the wood just looks so much better, so much clearer. The woods used in this one would be a cedar top just like the others. However, this one does have rosewood back and sides, which definitely adds a lot to the quality of the sound of the guitar. So let's go ahead and hear some chords again, and then we'll move on to some pieces. Okay, so right away, yes, I am hearing a pretty similar sound to the C5, but definitely just a better version of that sound. It's louder, it's fuller, it's a bit warmer, and overall the guitar just feels much better to play. Upon playing these guitars, the biggest difference I noticed between the two is just going to be the weight of the guitar. The C7 has a little bit more weight to it, I think, which definitely gives it its fuller and bigger sound, probably due to having the rosewood back and sides as opposed to the mahogany. Okay, so the bass on this guitar is definitely much louder, much fuller, and it just has a better tone to it overall. And obviously I think that's definitely due to the better quality woods being used, as well as there's definitely more work being put into this guitar. But honestly, I think for the price, this is a great guitar, and if you've been playing for a few years, you want to probably skip over the C5 and go straight to one of these. Let's go ahead and check out the trebles. Okay, so the trebles in this one are sustaining, I think, pretty nicely. They're pretty clear and they're not getting in the way of the basses. I always think the one thing this guitar really has over the C5 is just has a better sense of balance. It doesn't feel like anything's really popping out in your face trying to sound good. It's, overall, it just sounds pretty good. So as you guys heard, those are the 3 entry-level Cordoba guitars. One thing I want to mention that the C1 guitar comes in a few different sizes if you have a younger student looking to play and get into guitar. You can get them in the size of a quarter size, a half size, and a 3/4 size. Now for the Cordoba C5 guitar, they come in a few different sizes. They come in a half, a 3/4, and a 7/8 if someone isn't quite ready for the full size. And then for the C7, we only have a full size guitar option. Now this is probably because if you're starting that young, you're going to want to have a cheaper guitar, only because the student is probably going to literally outgrow the guitar once they're ready to move on to better instruments. Now the C1 guitars, you might not be able to find them as a C1 anymore. They might be listed as a C1M or some other Cordoba name underneath the thing, but a guitar by Cordoba in the price point of probably the 175 ballpark or so, 200, is probably going to be a similar guitar quality. So overall, when you're looking to buy a guitar, definitely you want to look for things such as the sustain of the guitar, the volume, the balance, and just overall, how does it feel? How well does it seem like it's made? Those are going to be some of the big things that you want to consider when it comes to figuring out how much money you want to invest in buying your first guitar or buying an upgraded guitar. And the last thing I want to say is if you guys have the option, I highly recommend to go with a teacher to buy a guitar or find a trusted guitar dealer, someone like Joe Burrows that is going to be able to help you out to find a guitar that is going to properly fit your needs as a player. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. If you have other guitars you want me to check out, of course, let me know in the comments or send me a message over on Instagram. And hopefully you guys liked what you saw, and hopefully you found this helpful. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below, ring the bell, and follow me on Instagram at For The Classical Guitarist. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys soon.